I am a Mega Man fan. I was a fan ever since my father set me down in front of a PS1 and a copy of Mega Man X5 as a little kid. So imagine yourself in my shoes back in 2013. This was in the middle of the big Mega Man drought. The last mainline Mega Man game came out years ago, meaning many Mega Man fans were desperate for a new entry to the series. Enter the Mighty No. 9 Kickstarter. It was presented to us by Keiji Inafune, who was widely known as the father of Mega Man. He promised us a brand new game that captured the essence of the Mega Man franchise that we've been missing. So, of course, I had to back the Kickstarter. Which is kinda funny in hindsight because what happened next was So after all that time, in the present day, I decided I needed to play this game in its entirety in order to get some kind of closure. But before we start, I'm gonna need some help. When we start the game, we are introduced to the tutorial stage by a brilliant roboticist named Dr. White. Dr. White created 9 highly advanced robots, which he calls the Mighty Numbers, and we play as Mighty No. 9, whose name is Beck. We learn from Dr. White that many robots have gone berserk, including the other 8 Mighty Numbers. After this starting exposition, we're tasked with getting to the laboratory in order to research about this phenomenon. Throughout the stage, we learn not only to jump and shoot, but also dash. I swear this is important. You see, when you damage the enemies enough, you can dash through and absorb them. And after absorbing enough enemies, you obtain a one-use healing item. Also, depending on the enemies you absorb, you can sometimes get a temporary power-up, such as piercing shots, extra defense, or extra speed. This absorbing mechanic also plays into the boss fights. You use the usual jumping and shooting to damage the boss, but since the boss's health are segmented in this game, once we damage the boss enough, we have to dash into them to truly reduce their health. Also, if you don't do this quick enough, they'll start regenerating health. And yes, this becomes very annoying in some later levels. After learning the basics from the tutorial stage, we arrive at the laboratory. And we are introduced to this Discord moderator. His name is Dr. Sanda, who is the creator of a robot named Call that looks like an underage girl.
FBI, open up!
They chat for a little while and decide that Beck, who is inexplicably unaffected by the robot berserk virus, should go track down the other 8 Mighty Numbers. From this point, the game does play out like a classic Mega Man game, where we have to defeat the 8 Mighty Numbers. We have the generic Fire guy, whose stage includes fire and explosions. We have the generic Ice guy, whose stage includes ice physics and ice puns.
Well, nice to see you, Beck. You're on thin ice here, right? So try not to get cold feet, okay? Okay, let's try this again. After all, revenge is a dish best served cold. Holy shit!
So on and so forth. We do have some standouts, like Brandish, who's the only Mighty Number that seems to somewhat resist the robot berserk virus, which makes me think that he could have had a bigger role if they ever made a sequel, but that doesn't seem very likely at this point. Also, there is Countershade, who keeps talking about robot freedom throughout his stage. And at the end of the stage, you take him down and fix the virus plaguing him. Huh. And lastly, there's Dynatron. I'm just mentioning her cause I like her design. Other than the standouts, most of the stages are just mediocre platformer stages broken up by some questionable designs, where you just get to the end to defeat the bosses. After defeating all the Mighty Numbers, we get more plot, where Gregory Graham, the CEO of Cherry Dynamics, which is where Dr. White used to work at, asks for help at a malfunctioning robot manufacturing factory. Dr. White agrees to help with Beck, but as Greg kept blaming another former employee called Dr. Blackwell for the robot berserk virus without much reason, he sends Dr. Sanda and Call to break into jail so they can meet with Dr. Blackwell and shed some light to his suspicions. It does kind of feel appropriate that Sanda is sent to jail. The factory is another generic level where you have to go through the level and beat the boss. However, the jail stage works differently in that we are made to play as Call, whose ability is being worse than Beck. Her blaster is only effective against some enemies, which means we are forced to use stealth to sneak around for the most part, or sometimes just wait for them to kill themselves. Even with a boss, we have to take a more passive approach, where we have to blind the robot dog so we can make it eat bombs. Yes, really. With this level end up being one of the worst levels within the game due to this annoying mechanic, I still can't fathom why they included it. Oh no. We did this. Anyways, after clearing both stages, we get another cutscene where Dr. Blackwell is shown to be innocent, and Gregory admits that he reactivated Trinity, which is a robot that Dr. White created before leaving True Dynamics, and turns out that it was causing all the other robots to go berserk. Dr. White also reveals why Beck is not affected by the virus. This is because he put everything he learned from Trinity into Beck, and that keeps him immune. Sure. Also, it is revealed that Dr. White's real name is Bill Blackwell, Dr. Blackwell's son, which they play it up to be really dramatic. But since this is literally the first time we see Dr. Blackwell, the impact is kinda lost. After all those revelations, Beck is tasked with going after Trinity, and so begins the final mission. We go through the level that gives off a lot of Mega Man X4 and 5 vibes, until we reach the elevator of exposition. Here, we learn that Trinity is absorbing robots to a dangerous degree because its prime directive is to constantly grow and evolve. This does explain why Beck has the absorbing powers, but does not really explain why the other robots started going berserk. Soon after that, we arrive at the boss, Trinity. Its first phase is comprised of copying the Yellow Devil from Mega Man 1, and its second phase...
Game over.
Oh, give me a sec. In its second phase, it turns into a flower and uses either of the two attacks. One, where Trinity moves from one end to another, and you have to shoot and dash your way through. And another where... oh, we can't show that. And another where it does this. But even though I had the patterns all figured out, I was half a bottle of vodka in at this point, and the fatigue of doing this all in one sitting was getting to me. I kept trying, but I was never able to beat Trinity's final phase. This went on for nearly an hour, where I almost decided to give up. But then I got angry, not at the fact that the boss was kicking my butt, but at the fact that I was gonna have to come back to finish this off later if I leave right now. So I grit my teeth and went in again.
Bring it on.
And after trying at the boss a few more times,
Come on! Snap out of it! Now!
now I couldn't make too much noise because it was 3 AM at this point, but inside I was screaming and jumping around. Thus ended my journey with Mighty Number 9. It's a shame how Mighty Number 9 ended up. It showed a lot of heart at some places, like in the laboratory background showing the alt designs for Call, whose final design was picked by the Kickstarter backers, and also having the other mighty numbers you rescued showing up in the background of other stages to help you. But the overall game turned out to be flawed and came out as a disappointment. Well, at least it's a good thing that Capcom is showing interest back into Mega Man again. Oh my god. That was horrible. It looks like they're setting up a sequel somewhere, like they're trying to build up this. What the fuck? What the fuck?